All right, man. We're live. I'm here with Oliver, my dear friend. We go back a couple of years here in Medellin. I guess I should probably start off by saying this is a different conversation than the ones we've had previously. I've often talked with veterans, and I haven't talked with the medicine person before. So we're going to be taking some medicines. I'm confident during the talk, which will be unusual to many people. So probably three in particular: Mambe, which is powdered cocoa powder, and ash of a ruma tree. Ambil, which is tobacco paste and salt, and probably some rape. I'm assuming we'll probably make it way in here. So if we're blowing our nose and our teeth are colored green, no worries, we're doing okay. Well,
Thank you
dude,
very much for having me
man,
on.
I'm really glad to
It's
have you on, dude.
it's funny because in the communities here in Medellin, or more like in the medicine communities, for people to have the green colored teeth is just like totally normal. But obviously, when you have a conversation and people are tuning in, it's like, oh, what's going on? Do they have a teeth missing or whatever? So yeah, it's very happy to be on and share about about the story, share about the transformations that have been taking place, and contribute a little bit to the path, to the community that Scottie is building.
I appreciate it, man. Would you mind educating the people a little bit on Mambe, Ambil, and that whole thing, just so they know a little bit of the significance of it to us?
Absolutely. So the indigenous belief that everything has a consciousness, and quantum physics actually confirms the same thing. And if you eat a plant, when you smoke a plant, when you drink a plant, you connect with that consciousness of the plant, and that expands within you or in that conversation. Also, the spirituality of Asia is very much connected to breath work, to yoga, to meditation. And the spirituality of the Americas, the South America, is very much connected to plant medicines. And two of the major plants in the Americas is the tobacco and the coca. And interestingly, obviously, in the common knowledge bank of the West, those two are looked down upon because the tobacco is associated with cigarettes and cancer and diseases. The coca with the cocaine and all the troubles that it brings with it. But it's not the plant that is bad; it's the misuse of the plant that is bad. If you add dozens of chemicals to the cigarette, also indigenous say, if you smoke a cigar or a tobacco, then your thoughts are amplified. Most people smoke cigarettes when they're anxious, and then those thoughts get amplified. Add in the chemicals with the coca plant, a very sacred plant in Latin America. But then if you obviously chemically processes, if you put a lot of petroleum to it, and then it's not gonna, it puts people very much in that consumer state of mind. So that's a little bit of background, but for what these medicines are used, the tobacco is a representation of the masculine energy, the clarity, the light, the focus. And so the ambil is cooked tobacco. The coca, they go together, is from Mother Earth. It's for the sweet words. And it even goes that far that in certain indigenous communities, if you don't take any mambe in their sharing circles, they don't even take you seriously. Obviously, we're not at that point, but for me, it's very beautiful to be connected with these plant medicines. There's also a town in Colombia called San Agustin, where they have some stones which are over 12 feet tall, and they have cravings or like drawings in them, and they also show them with the ambil and the mambe. So these are things that have been here for millennials. And Amazon, one of the most mysterious regions of the world, and to be able to connect with the customs, with the traditions of these very powerful tribes. I feel very blessed and fortunate, and I'm more than happy to share it. So it's not just that we take some coca or whatever to talk, but there's an intention, a purpose behind it. Because in a way, many people are struggling, and they are looking for ways. And what these plant medicines, not just Zambil and Amambe, I work a lot with ayahuasca. What they have taught me is to become more human again. In a world where nothing is ever enough, it's good to learn to be more human again. That it's not necessarily about
Mm.
getting to the next accomplishment or whatever, but about calling your mom or your community, your brothers, and obviously not just specifically about the community that you're building. It's not just about accomplishment. It's just as much about processing emotional impact that are on conventional methods difficult to overcome. Obviously, nothing is impossible, but it's about that each person connects with whatever modality is working for them.
I love that, man. Yeah, so just to give the people a bit of a background, how long you've been here in Colombia for? So we live very close to Medellin, both of us.
Mhm. A bit over 3 years now, and
Nice.
I think it's interesting because 3 years is I think like a sweet spot, because in some ways it's not a little time. It's also not a lot of time, but it's also really dependent on how you use the time that you do something. And I've been really committed, dedicated to building a center to be on the path. We do multiple retreats a month, and obviously the deeper you go on your process, you can develop a lot within 3 years. So yeah, I've been here a little bit over 3 years in the Medellin area.
Mm. Yeah, I think we met about 3 years ago, probably when you
Yeah,
first arrived. I think initially at Carl Lakshari's men's circle, right?
absolutely. Mhm. Yes.
Yeah, nice, man. Yeah, I've also kind of been on the medicine path for about 2.5, maybe 3 years, probably 2.5 years, I think is more accurate. And I've always really appreciated the openness you've had to share, to do men's work, and to build your center. What attracted you to men's work, or to plant medicines in the first place? What sort of put you on your healing path?
So I've been doing personal development for since my early 20s. So I've done a lot of different things, and obviously you hear a lot about plant medicines, about ayahuasca, about people finding their purpose, their mission, their inner peace, and so that was something that obviously spoke to me. I had my first experiences in Europe, and after my first weekend retreat with 2 ceremonies, I was like, wow, I experienced such a deep level of healing that I didn't know was possible in only one weekend. So that was, I would say, I have two different parts of it. One is my own personal growth and healing aspect that I do with these plant medicines, and just knowing every 6 months that I look back, I know like, wow, I'm significantly at a different place where I was 6 months ago, and knowing that, you know, it's life is happening, life is developing, obviously with challenges, with difficulties, with but that's what helps to grow. So that was is like basically one more of a selfish reason, if you would like to say so, which really attracts me to the medicine path, the growth and the healing that I experience myself. But the other is also the obviously the impact and the growth, the development, the healing that is happening in others. I remember the very first retreat that I went to. There was an older lady about 60 years old, and she was walking timidly, and obviously you could tell that there was something going on. And then later in the sharing circle, when she shared about some things that she's processing, I was like, damn, those are like some serious stuff. And I'm not a therapist, but even if I would be, I don't know where I would even start working with somebody who has that level of yeah, the pain that they carry with them many times, even for multiple decades. But the beauty about this path is that, you know, it's not about me being a guru, a life coach, or whatever, but about creating a safe place for people to connect with ayahuasca. and the ayahuasca is gonna show them the path. The ayahuasca is gonna connect them with themselves. The ayahuasca is gonna help them emotionally process those events that we hold on to, the resentment, the lack of acceptance, forgiveness, compassion, the stiffness that we carry within ourselves. And so it's, for me, I see my responsibility as creating that safe place for people to connect with ayahuasca. And the ayahuasca, it's in Spanish they have a word. It's called La Reina de las Plantas, the
Mm.
queen of the plants. And it's a master plant. It's going to give you exactly what you need at the time that you connect with it, and let the wisdom of the plant that has been here for millennials take care of the healing that the individuals come here with.
I love that, man. Yeah, some people I run across don't really understand what ayahuasca is, and so I'll try to give it my explanation, then you can maybe fill in the details where I'm missing. But essentially, ayahuasca is a combination of two plants: the
Mhm,
vine of the capi, it's the capi style vine, and then it's
mhm,
also the leaves of the chacruna. And
mhm,
those combined allow the DMT of the vine to be combined with the MAO inhibitor of the chacruna plant, which allows the DMT chemical itself to be absorbed through the stomach. And it's a combination that's been used for many millennia here in the Amazon for healing,
mhm,
and it's developed a certain spirituality around it in terms of like when you refer to a master plant or
mhm,
trust the medicine. That's what we're talking about.
mhm.
So what else would you kind of fill in there to give people an understanding that have no idea what we're talking about right now?
No, absolutely. So what, and for me, I talk less about, obviously you have the two different plans, and they stop the DMT from being absorbed that quickly. Like all the stuff that you said is correct. What I usually talk about more is that ayahuasca in a way connects you with your subconscious. It's a mirror to your soul, and you see what's going on inside of you, and sadness, the frustration, the anger, but also the joy, the happiness, the peace that you feel on ayahuasca, in a way, has more to do with yourself than with ayahuasca. So basically, it's your consciousness experiencing your consciousness through the plant. So it
Mm,
connects you with yourself. You are put in a extraordinary state of consciousness. We don't really prefer to use the word hallucinate because it like refers that you see Pikachu or whatever out there, but more about
mm,
you are in that extraordinary state of consciousness, and in that extraordinary state of consciousness you connect with things which were there before, because that level of the sadness that I also encountered in myself, that level of disharmony that I encountered in myself, but also that deep level of love that I found through the ayahuasca, those were not states of the ayahuasca. Those were all internal states that I carried within myself, but they were buried, that I started to have access to. And that later the ayahuasca helped me to learn how to release, the things that no longer serve me, to cultivate more of that self-love. So that's how I like uh, to explain it, and also that it's a lot more than just DMT. You can also chemically extract
mm,
DMT. People smoke DMT. It's a spirit of a plant. It's a tradition. It's a ceremony that the ancestors of the Amazon have been guarding for centuries and millennials. And it's not about tripping out on a substance, but about connecting with the sacredness of a ceremony, um, and then allowing the spirit of the ayahuasca to come to you. And just like how we said in the beginning of the conversation, how the indigenous believe that every plant has a consciousness, you connect with the consciousness of the ayahuasca, and it starts to develop within you in the ceremony, but not just in the ceremony, but also after. Many people report that it seems like they're starting to go on the highway of healing, the highway of life. That obviously, if you start to move a lot of energy inside of you, on the outside, things start to change as well. So that's more of the explanation that I like to give about ayahuasca.
I love that, man. Yeah, I agree with everything you're saying there for sure. It's not a drug, it's a medicine. I think also a lot of people tend to get confused. They think that it's like a magic pill. They'll take it once and it'll solve all their problems for them.
I wish.
And we probably don't agree that that's the case, you know?
I mean, I wish it would be that easy, right? But
Yeah.
yeah, no, ayahuasca is not the solution to your life. Um, Ayahuasca can be a tool, and it can be a tool that help you process the things you need to process, that connect you with your intuition, that helps you see your blind spots, that helps you purge negative energies, patterns that you've been holding on to. It can help you create a vision for your life. But then it's up to you. Do I keep on going back to the same environments, habits, conversations, people that I wasn't before? Or do I use that open state, also being out of my autopilot mind, and do I start to create new patterns in my life? So unfortunately, it's not a magic pill. It's not like you drink ayahuasca
Yeah.
and everything is different, but it can be a seed. And there's also a lot of songs that are being played in ceremonies, and in a way they're also part of a prayer as well. And there's a song that's called La Semilla, the seed, and it goes, the seed has been planted inside of your heart, and the love is the water that grows. So
Mm.
that seed has been planted inside of you through the ayahuasca, if you like to like to believe it. And however much you take care of that seed, that flower, that plant that is growing, that determines how much change is going to happen. If you just like kick it over, if you don't care for it, obviously not, unfortunately, not too many things will change if you don't make those changes within yourself.
Yeah, I agree, man. Yeah, so it's a tool for healing that allows you to see different perspectives inside your own consciousness and your history and the things that are going on inside of you. Like it allows you to see a different layer or a different way of looking at things that can often lead to healing in the sense that it shows you what you need to work on or helps reframe traumatic experiences in your life. I guess I would put it that way. Because I mean, a lot of I know the veteran community, man. That a lot of them are going to look at like, what the hell are these guys talking about? So, like, I guess to put it in layman's terms, and you and I are very much in agreement with like once you take ayahuasca, it's a very difficult experience to describe to someone that hasn't taken it before. So, if anyone's listening to this and it's like these guys are on crack, just know that it's been extremely, extremely useful for many, many, many veterans and people in general, and maybe just trust us and try it once and see what the experience is. Yeah, I'm curious to hear, as you've been developing your own retreat center. I mean, you've been hard at work over there, man. You live on the other side of the mountain for me, and I barely see you anymore because you're just coming in and out of ceremonies. Have you worked with any veterans recently or in the past? And I'd love to hear what their experiences were and maybe also some of their reservations about taking ayahuasca with you or in general.
Give me 1 second.
Yeah, no worries. Yeah, one of the peculiar things about Mambe is it's a powder, and you have to give it some time for your saliva to wet it. Otherwise, if you spoke immediately, it would just be a green cloud covering the screen.
No, it's a very good question, and also to like share what you mentioned as well, is that it can seem like very far away, ayahuasca, but I feel like ayahuasca is at a point where the tipping point has been reached, that if you ask around in your network, you will most likely find somebody who has already drank ayahuasca, and they're going to be able to share their experience. But also knowing that Sergio always likes to say, the person who shares ayahuasca at my center, that nothing can prepare you for your own individual subjective experience of ayahuasca. So you can watch out all the experiences of people that they've had, but you're going to have your own individual experience because you are an individual, you have your own story, you have your own intention with it. So it's going to develop in different ways in each one of us. And I think one thing is important to share, that Me personally, I'm not that happy with the sensational nature of ayahuasca, which is broadcasted through the internet. And it's
Mm.
basically the internet in general. The more crazy of a story I tell, the more viral the video gets. But in the end, the healing always comes through love, the light, the understanding, the compassion, the acceptance, the forgiveness. And that's also so much more the path of ayahuasca. And sometimes we need to look at our blind spots. We need to see where it hurts to finally get the lesson, to see where we're messing up so we're able to change as well. But many times the shame and the guilt that we carry within us, things that we need that kick in our back to finally get moving, but so much more what we need is a big hug. So many veterans are concerned that like I'm running away from my nightmares and I don't want to relive my nightmares. And if I now end up in the middle of the battlefield on my ayahuasca journey or ceremony, that would be the absolute most horrible thing that could happen, and I really don't want to live through that again. And no, no, thank you. And I'm not saying that's not going to happen, but I'm saying there's just as likely or even more likely that it is not going to happen. That ayahuasca knows in which way it's going to help you heal. There was a person who talked about, yeah, there was a situation coming up, and I was like, oh damn it, no, I need to relive it. And then the ayahuasca said, like, I'm just gonna take this memory away and erase it. So that person didn't need to go through whatever they really guarded, and so that's also a possibility. So that's one thing that I like to say, that it doesn't need to be you needing to relive all of your traumas and all that kind of stuff. It can teach you in gentle and loving ways as well. The
Yeah, I
other,
think that's
oh,
right on. If I can interject some thoughts that came up during that, I think you're so on point there. A couple of things, like the first thing that brings up is there's a difference between the Western approach to medicine and the indigenous approach to medicine. So the Western approach basically says, we'll treat the symptoms. If you have a headache, we'll give you some Advil. And the indigenous approach says, if you have a headache, then maybe you need to drink some water. We're going to do our best to find and treat the source, the root of it.
mm,
And so a lot of even Western techniques are kind of picking up on this, like EMDR, which uses like little shocks or taps or light therapy to consistently bring the service member or veteran or person that's undergoing trauma back to the source of that trauma and reframe it. Therapy does that same thing as well. So if you get down to it, a lot of the effective healing techniques don't involve running away from that trauma. It actually runs towards it. And as a further tie into the military community, at least for the Army, we're taught a very particular way to respond, like to battles, right? If we get ambushed, for example, we're in a convoy and fire starts coming in. We don't run away. We establish. Sorry, there's some thunder going on. It's a store over here. We establish fire superiority and we move towards the enemy, right? So if you put it down into the healing process, we're not running away from our trauma. We're moving towards it, and we've got support like the plants or therapy or whatever it is, and we move towards it. And as we say in the medicine, the only way out is through. Those are the things that came up as you were saying that.
no,
Yeah, so I guess that resonates. At least those 3 points resonate. And you had another
mm,
another thing that you were gonna go on.
mm. So a couple of other things is also, I'm going to say these things with a lot of humility because I'm not a veteran. I didn't go through what many veterans went through. I can share things from observations. I can share things from supporting people on their journey. I cannot share it from my own personal experience. So I just wanted to have that level of disclaimer as well. Another thing which I believe is very important is two things actually, is to reconnect with our nervous system and get back into getting into the rest and repair nervous system. because from what multiple veterans told me about is that also through training, basically your personality is being beat down, is being erased, so you can build up a new one. But
Hmm.
basically, you are put in a constant state of fight or flight, in a constant state of anxiety, and it's important to break out of that and find ways to connect with that rest and repair nervous system. It can be through breath work, it can be through meditation, through ice baths, through um, yoga, whatever it is. But it can also help with ayahuasca to get you to process certain emotional things in the past that keep you like in that state. But for one key to healing is to be able to connect with that rest and repair nervous system.
Dude, 100%. One of the courses I'm developing right now is over the 5 doctors. A guy called Paul Chek came up with the 4 doctors. So Hippocrates was the original, the 3 doctors: diet, sleep, and happiness. Paul Chek added
Yes.
movement, and I'm adding spirit. And
Mm,
the idea there is that the main enemy number one that we're fighting is constant stress. So like
mm,
the body, occasional stress, really good. You know, you
mm,
encounter a bear in the woods, you want to immediately be able to run. But all
mm,
the things that stress does over time, like heightened cortisol, destroy our digestive processes, those sort of things over time, really has tremendously bad effects on the human body. So I think you're absolutely right.
mm,
And that is a huge problem we face in the military. You know, if we just take the men's work that we've been doing, right? Men in general are not encouraged to share how they feel. They're encouraged to block all of their emotions and true feelings off behind a wall, because if they actually share how they feel, they're perceived as weak by people that don't know any better, or that should know better, maybe. And then the military has an additional component on top of that, like you mentioned, the training. You know, we're trained to not complain. We're trained to soldier on. If we hurt, we'll slap some Advil down and we'll just keep going and compartmentalize it. And so that's one of the reasons why I'm so attracted to working with military veterans, is
mm.
because it's such a tricky problem. And so I really appreciate your insight on that, man. Was there anything else you wanted to add on that particular topic?
It's not on that particular topic. It's just another observation that I've made, and it's a bit personal, that many people who go to the military is that there are actually more things, or like significant things, that happened in childhood, in the developmental years, that they felt like they would leave behind their current community, that they would go into a new community, that they would expose themselves into that rough
Mm,
conditions, that very primal, yeah, war as well. And it's just an observation that many times there was a certain level of hurt in family, whether it could have been abuse, it could have been abandonment, whatever there was, that attracted the individual to go into the armed forces in the first place. And it can
mhm,
even be that ayahuasca is going to start to work on those on those pain points in you, because you might think like, hey, I need to process the battle that I went through, and you might need to process that. There might be other things which are even on a deeper level, which cause you to expose yourself to that level of pain and suffering in the first place.
yeah, I absolutely agree. I mean, that resonates with my own story. You know, I joined the military at 17, got a special waiver to do so because I was so desperate to escape my own family life. You know,
Mm,
to my knowledge, not physical abuse, but severe mental, emotional, and spiritual abuse for sure.
mm,
I resonate with that a lot. You know, not obviously not everybody joins the military for that reason, but I think there's a significant part of the population that does have that. So that's actually a really wonderful observation that I've noted down and going to carry forward with me. One thing that I mentioned, that one thing that also came up for me when you were talking about like the negative impact of the internet on ayahuasca. Like it's definitely done some good in terms of getting more information out there and more awareness about ayahuasca, but it's also done some bad with the sensationalism. And I would say, from my perspective, if a military veteran or anyone in general is interested in taking ayahuasca, there are kind of two components to it. There's the healing component, like what happens to you, and then there's the physical component, like how the actual experience is. So like, am I going to see lights, or am I going to vomit, or am I going to shit myself? And I guess what I recommend to people is that they don't do any research on the actual physical experience itself, because it's going to differ every time, person to person, and every time you take the medicine, it's going to be different. And that the more you do that, the more expectations you build up. And that's one thing that can really derail an entire ayahuasca trip, is having this mountain of expectations about what will or should be happening. Like if you allow yourself to get caught up in that mind space, you're either in for a bad trip or a very boring trip. Is
Absolutely.
typically what I find. So if there's anyone that is interested in doing ayahuasca, like I'd like to recommend Oliver as a resource, to either get on his email list or have a call with him, or I'm sure you have a way of doing that to kind of inform people properly, or reach out to me or some people in the community that we have. We're happy to fill you in on kind of what experiences it's had on our lives, and also not considering one ayahuasca ceremony at a time. It's really multiple ceremonies at a time, because it's the start of a process of healing. And so it's like, I didn't get all the healing I was looking for after this one ayahuasca ceremony. And I was like, well, okay, how old are you, man? It's like, oh, I'm 35. Well, you got 35 years worth of shit to go through. So like, do you really think you're going to blast through all that in one night? Come on, man. Yeah, I guess.
No.
And one last story before I hand it back over to you. There was a veteran, an Army veteran, and he was a mail delivery clerk, and he had gotten, he was delivering mail in Afghanistan, and his Chinook helicopter got shot at, and he had to crash land and ended up in a 2-day firefight. Ended up with horrible PTSD. He was actually part of, he was a family member of one of the medicine men in the community, Juan Pablo Domocoraka. And Juan Pablo said, hey, you should talk to Scottie. So I sat him down. We were sitting at the fire, and it's a couple hours before the ceremony. It's like, hey man, I really am thinking about taking ayahuasca, but I'm really scared about it, so I don't think it's going to be for me. It's like, all right, well, tell me a little bit about your story. He told me about his story in the firefight. Well, what effects is the PTSD having on your life? Well, I'm anxious, I'm depressed, it's hard for me to make friends, like this. He listed a whole laundry list of things. I said, okay, what are you afraid about in the ayahuasca? He's like, well, I think I might relive some of those experiences, during the night. I think it might bring up stuff and might destabilize me. It's like, okay, well, here's the deal, man. Pick what you're more afraid of: sticking with how you are and continuing to live in pain and suffering, or pushing through it for a night and getting better. And he cocked his head to the side. It took me 30 seconds, right? He's like, well, that's actually all you needed to say. And he signed up and he took the ceremony,
How was the experience like?
It was really good. It was really good. Juan Pablo's medicine comes from the Siona people. And so it's a little bit different than yours. It takes a lot longer to really have an effect. You might have to take a second or a third cup. And usually people don't really start entering into that state until 2-3 hours in. There are exceptions, but it's a patience game. This particular ayahuasca likes to make you wait, likes to make you enforce control over your own mind and stop the, hey, I should be feeling something, like what's going on, like am I fine? It's a real test of patience and discipline. But he had a wonderful experience, and I'm happy to say he's coming back now to other medicine ceremonies. Now he crossed that difficult divide of, okay, I'm going to take medicine, and I'm going to surrender to the medicine, and I'm not going to be afraid.
No, thank you very much for sharing that, and especially with having that level of patience, because also from all the stories about ayahuasca and like, yeah, it helped me heal my PTSD. It did this for me. It did this for me. I changed my life, and you're just like, all right, I'm about to do it, and it's all gonna happen to me. And you might drink it and nothing happens. You're just like, what's going on?
Some people just go to sleep. People go to sleep. They wake up in the morning. They don't know that the medicine is working. The medicine is always working, but sometimes it just takes time. Why should people, and what type of people should take or consider plant medicines, and who shouldn't?
Can I tie back to the point that you mentioned?
Oh
before?
Yeah, of course.
It's ayahuasca can change your life, but it doesn't need to change your life. It can also be a piece of the puzzle. Right. And I'm sure that the people who are listening to this, that you're doing a lot of work to help heal, to help grow, and ayahuasca can just be a little puzzle that might unlock more things. If you think about a lock, and ayahuasca might help you to further unlock it, but you might still not unlock it in the ceremony. And maybe some weeks, some months later, you listen to the lyrics of a song, you watch a video, you have a conversation with a friend, and now it all makes sense. And it might, maybe the ayahuasca was a piece of the puzzle before as well. And you don't need to resolve all of the shit that you've been carrying for decades in one ceremony, in one retreat. If you take a step forward, that's already a step forward, and that's already a win. So I think it's important to not expect too much as well. In a way, everything is a relationship. And imagine if you would be ayahuasca, and then people come um, to to you, and then they expect like, hey, I want this, this, and this, and this, and this, and this, in this way. Let's go. I would be like,
Exactly.
no, right? Obviously, ayahuasca is
Like an
not.
ayahuasca one night stand, basically. I'm listening.
And
Just need to grab my
yes,
FFA.
yes. So to know that it doesn't need to happen all in one night. It doesn't need to happen all in one one ceremony, and allow for things to develop as well. And even those processes where you don't necessarily feel the ayahuasca, but you have all of the judgments going through your mind, all of the negative thought patterns, in a way, that's also a process with the ayahuasca, because you are confronted with your bullshit. Then you're going to start to purge it, and that's going to start to make space for new things to develop in you as well. Obviously, I didn't. I was the most impatient person when I started drinking ayahuasca. And I was just like, I want to feel something, and I want to feel something right now. But yeah, so have a little bit of patience. Don't expect too much, and allow the magic of the plant to start doing its work.
Yeah, man. I resonate with that a lot, man. I remember the last ceremony that I helped Juan Pablo with. There was like I said, the medicine takes a while. So Juan Pablo is the medicine man who's running the ceremony. He kind of waits to offer the second cup until it started to connect. And I was working the fire and praying with the fire, and this guy came out. His first time taking ayahuasca, and he just kind of stamps his foot and says, "I would like a second cup now." I was like, "Oh, patience, man, patience. Come on now." Yeah, man, we get that a lot. Yeah, it's just like it's unfortunate, but our culture in the Western world has really done us a disservice in having us expect everything immediately and rapidly.
Mm.
And these things are developed over time. Yeah, man.
Yeah, so do you want me to tie back to the point of who should consider drinking ayahuasca?
Yeah, I'd love that. Like, who maybe start off with like who like first of all, I guess why plant medicines? Maybe if you can summarize that for us. Why
Mm-hmm.
plant medicines in general, or maybe like as opposed to yoga or meditation, maybe in combination. And then we could go into who should take it and who shouldn't.
Mm-hmm. So for me, for example, I did ice baths before doing ayahuasca, and meditation, and a bunch of things. And they would help me, but in a way, they would help me to a degree. And when I was in those high stress situations, I noticed that I would fall back into my anxious patterns, into my, I'm just like, it's working to a degree. I feel good throughout the day, but then when those triggering situations come up, I notice that level of anxiety, that shutting down, and all that kind of stuff. So I was frustrated to that sense that I was not being able to crack open what needed to crack open with the things that were with the tools that I had at the time.
Mm,
And I think it's important to know that ayahuasca is not a drug. It's a plant medicine. And if you look at nature, nature is perfect. Nothing is rushed, everything gets accomplished, everything is in absolute harmony. we can learn actually so much from nature. And if you believe that, and it's also the evidence is there that nature gives us everything that we need. It sustains us, it maintains us, it nurtures us. And also nature gives us these plant medicines for our thinking, for emotion, for our spirit, for our soul in some ways. Because again, you don't need plant medicines. At the same time, if there is a deep underlying level of guilt inside of you about things that you have done in the past, and you that level of self-hatred and all that kind of stuff, and maybe you've done a lot of therapy and you just like maybe even understand your patterns, why you are the way that you are, but you're still that way, and it's you are looking for solutions, and there's nothing wrong with trusting Mother Nature and with the with the medicines for our spirit, for our soul that it has for us.
So maybe like those who are trying to make breakthroughs after trying other therapies, it might have gotten them part of the way, but they need kind of like, sometimes I feel like you hit a ceiling that you
Hmm.
need something just to break through. You know, you might be taking therapy, like you said, you're aware of your patterns, but you're not aware of why they're there. So maybe some people that should consider plant medicines would be those who have tried other techniques but haven't achieved the breakthroughs they're really looking for.
I think that's one types one groups of people. But I would say even more is if you hear the calling for ayahuasca. And the titles, the medicine givers, they talk about the calling for ayahuasca. And let's say 10 people hear the story of ayahuasca. Some people say, interesting, but not for me. Others are like, whoa, leave me away with that stuff. And others are like, please tell me more.
Yeah.
And you listening to this, you might have been in different stages and different points in your life. And intuitively, you will know where you're at if the plant is calling you. And I believe there is a reason why you are hearing that call. And there's a lot of value in following your intuition. And it can be that you are doing therapy and therapy is working great for you, and for whatever reason now it seems like it's the time, and it's not like, oh, but therapy is working well for me, so why should I drink ayahuasca? If you are at that stage, it's okay too, but maybe you feel like, hey, therapy is working for me and I feel the call, so start following that. And obviously there's going to be a level of nervousness, there's going to be a level of respect, there might even be a level of being afraid of the unknown, of losing control. That's a huge topic. But you can you can be really honest with yourself and see what is the thing that is stopping me to drink ayahuasca. Also, going back to the conversation that you had with one of the other veterans, where it's like, hey, I have a lot of fear that all of this comes up. But again, do you want fear to control your life, or do you trust in yourself, your path, the place where they're going to take care of you, these plantas maravillas, so like
Mm.
the wonderful plants. And if you feel that calling, I also remember one time I had a very strong ceremony with like a very strong ceremony the night before, and I heard a calling to drink a second cup, and I talked to the medicine giver, and I was like, hey, I'm like afraid to go deeper. And he said like, oh, that's okay to be afraid. And I think that was such a beautiful comment, because, I thought I needed to like beat the fear or this, that, or whatever. But it's like, oh no, it's totally normal to be afraid. It's okay. We take good care of you. And that was one of my most impactful ceremonies that I even
Mm.
had to date. So connect with yourself, with your heart, start to feel it like, hey, is this medicine calling me? And if that medicine is calling you, you'll know.
So it's like just to clarify in layman's terms, when we say calling, it's basically an intuitive sense or an interest, like an attraction to either learning more or maybe a feeling that it's the right thing to do.
Hmm. Yes. So, for example, I have a friend, and I talk with him about ayahuasca, and he says like, incredible, sounds awesome what you're doing, but like I don't feel like I need it. I don't want it. I'm like, I'm good where I'm at in my life. I don't even want a level of change which might disturb me where I'm at right now. I'm good. And I'm not trying to convince him, no, no, but you should be drinking ayahuasca. Look at how amazing it is. Like, no, he's just not hearing the call. And again, it's I guess something. If somebody would have told me 4 years ago to listen to your heart, would have said like, I don't know, I want to travel, like want to make money. Like, what do you mean listen to my heart? Yeah, but if you are in that moment of silence, if it is that a Sunday night when you cannot sleep, when you are there in that moment of desperation or that moment of hope, what feeling comes up for you when you hear about ayahuasca, when you hear about the stories of transformation? Do you feel inspired? Do you feel like there's something that makes you gravitate towards that? I would say, in a way, it's if when you enlisted in the army, maybe it was a logical decision, but maybe it wasn't. Maybe it was just like something intuitively within you. They said like, no, I want to be part of this community. This is my path. I want to follow that. And you might not hear it as clearly and as strongly as you heard a calling um, to to join the armed forces, but uh, the truth is, I cannot tell you if you should drink ayahuasca. Nobody can tell you if it's your time or not your time. It's you that has to make that decision.
Yeah, and I guess there's a difference, like when people, I guess what I would suggest to people is that they truly check in with themselves and determine if there's an inkling of a desire to learn more or to take it. I find a lot of people confuse not feeling the call with the mental rationalization that they go
Mm,
through based on their fears around why they
mm,
shouldn't take it. So they feel, yeah, I'm interested in it, and their mind starts working. Oh, I might go
mm,
back to that dark place. I don't like puking, for example, or I don't like the idea of like maybe fitting myself in a ceremony. And so
mm,
that's when they say, oh, I don't feel the call, versus someone that legitimately just doesn't
mm,
want to do it for whatever reason, like that
mm,
just doesn't feel like they need to do it or that it will be useful for them. I'd say
mm.
that's probably a useful distinction to make.
Absolutely. Scotty, I would love to ask you a question, and your perspective on this is about the fear of losing control, which especially for men is something very significant, especially if you are that type of person where everything is like taken care of. You know what's happening on the next day. This that you don't like to get out of that, because it's like, no, 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 I got my little box and I'm good in my box, and ayahuasca is a part of I might lose control right there. So do you want to share a little bit about
Mhm.
that topic?
That's such a great question, man. I really appreciate you asking that. One of the times I was in a run at West Point, and I was really hurting. I was in the fast group, so I'd probably bit off a little bit more than I could chew, and I was starting to cramp up, and I was in the middle of the formation, and people saw that I was hurting and that I couldn't make it. And one of my buddies, Rick Miles, grabbed me by the shirt and carried me along with him until I could run on myself or run on my own. In the military, we learned this, that sometimes when a buddy is hurting, you've got to take care of them, and you're gonna you have got a people around you, a community and a tribe that is going to make sure that you make it through. And I'd say that this idea that we always have to control ourselves, that we always have to do everything on our own, is one of the things that is hurting our community, the veteran community, so much in the first place. It's this idea of like, I'm not going to surrender control. And I
Mm,
think that when we do that to ourselves over time, like when we try to constrain it, when we try to compartmentalize it, control it, not let it out, that doesn't allow us to heal. And
mm,
so, yeah, maybe you will lose control. There have been people that have tried to attack me or bite me in the middle of ceremonies. Juan Pablo, my dear friend, has been hit in the face at least once. you
mm,
know. And the worst case scenarios will take some rope and tie you up to a tree and watch you and make sure you don't hurt yourself. That's the worst case scenario, but that doesn't happen often. Mostly the fear of going out of control is a lot worse than the actual going out of control itself. And so I would say to people that do have that fear, it's okay. We've got people around you that are going to
mm,
help you and that are going to make sure you make it through. And
mm,
that's one of the reasons why I believe this waking warrior community is so important. A lot of times I see veterans come and they hop on a plane, they come down to do ayahuasca and they arrive the day of, they don't know anybody. And that sort of magnifies the problem because they don't have trust for anyone around them. And so they can't really let go. And so what I'm trying to do with this community is have a group of veterans work together over a period of time and get to know, like, and trust each other and know that they're going to be supported so that they can let go.
Mm.
And I guess the last thing I would say is the people that actually do go out of control to a person are the ones that are fighting going out of control. If you just let go, you're not going to go out of control. That's been
Mm.
my personal experience. Would you say that's
Mm.
accurate?
Beautiful, beautifully said. Absolutely.
Yeah.
Mm.
It's the process. It's a hard thing to do, man. I'm still learning this lesson. I I was in the jungle, as I told you, training with the Siona for a couple weeks ago, and I was there for a week, and we'd had 4 ayahuasca ceremonies, and the first 2 were a pretty dramatic test of my seat at the altar, my ability to serve and to help, and so it was brutal, man. The first 2 ceremonies were like the medicine took forever to kick in, and the tribe there doesn't use mambe or ambil or rapé at all. They're just the ayahuasca.
Mm.
And the music doesn't start till like 3 in the morning. So normally in the Colombian style of doing ceremony, you have music that accompanies you pretty much through the entire ceremony, and you got a fire that's raging. And so the fire is very important to us as is not only a symbol of the ceremony, but also a caretaker of the energy and something that we receive energy from and give our problems to. And they kept the fire super low. It was like 2 little embers. And so I'm just kind of like sitting there, like, oh, please, like I can't draw energy from the music. I can't draw it from from the medicine because I'm not feeling it yet. I'm just miserable in every possible way. And I just kind of went back down to my hammock and I lay down and I said, okay, well, it's okay if the medicine doesn't do anything, if I don't feel it. I don't need to be chumado, which is our word for being high on the medicine. I don't need to have an experience. I've dedicated my time to come here and I'm going to do it and I'm going to support Juan Pablo and Lena and the people that are going through this experience, even if I don't feel like it. And I just lay
Mm.
back down and kind of waited for the music to start. And that's when it hit. Then the
Mm.
third and fourth was me being out of control. Like I was out of control, the third and fourth. I was babbling. I was talking to myself. I was completely disoriented and bumbling into people and stepping on feet. It was awful. And then I'm a fire person, an hombre de fuego. And one of the worst things that I did, I was so out of it. Like I wanted to connect to the fire, and Juan Pablo had asked me to bring the fire up a little bit. And you'll know how much of an oopsie this is. Most people won't, but you'll get it. I had gone to the fire and I'd started fanning it, and I started singing inipi songs to it. I was singing and praying to the fire. The problem was that I did it way too long. I got kind of just in a trance, and I was just fanning the fire, you know, way longer than it needed. And I was in between the fire and both of the taitas. We had 2 taitas that ceremony. As they were doing a curacion,
Mm.
I was in the middle of it, and they were being nice to me and throwing the energy around me so that it wouldn't hit me. But
Mm.
I was just like, what a dumbass. And it's
Mm.
kind of like one of those you wake up in the morning. Like I've been doing ayahuasca for years. I take ayahuasca more in a given month than most people do in their entire lifetimes. You can probably resonate with this, and still I was out of control and out of consciousness. I wasn't paying attention to what was going on around me. And there are no mistakes in ceremony. You
Mm.
know, I don't need to apologize for it. People understand and people will move me out of the way if I need to. Or just in that case, just let me be and let me learn my own lesson. So it
Mm.
still happens. It happens to us. It happens to you. It happens to me. It happens to everybody that's doing this. And there's this process of like, you wake up in the morning and you're like, you have this instinctive feeling of like, oh, I did something bad. I'm
Mm.
sorry. Like, it's not necessary because we've been there and we will be there and we understand and it's okay.
Mm. Thank you for sharing. Thank you for sharing.
Yeah,
Yeah,
man.
it's and we've all been there. We've shed our pants. We've screamed uncontrollably. We thought we were gonna die there at that point, and
Yeah.
we made it through. And
Yeah.
with the lesson each time. And it's also, if you think about life, we like to think that we have control of what's happening in our life. But in the real reality of it, we really don't. You don't know what's going to happen tomorrow. I don't know what's going to happen next week. I might have an idea of it, but also by trying to have too much control, you're squeezing life out of life.
Mm,
That this is the only way that life can be. And by even like being open to life, to let go of control, that's when the unknown comes in. That's when quantum healing can come in. That's when new things can start coming to you. So it's if you don't want to drink ayahuasca because you are afraid to lose control, you are probably afraid to lose control in other areas of your life as well. And maybe there's a lesson to be learned that life is not something to be controlled. It's something to walk with, it's something to dance with, it's something to experience. And the other is that in some ways, what we experience on ayahuasca is just as much a reality, and sometimes even more reality than what we experience on our
mm,
day-to-day life. Because if you think about that, there are infinite possibilities in the universe for whatever reason, and each one of us keeps on experiencing the same things over and over again in our romantic relationships, in our friendships, in our business life. And so it's like there are infinite possibilities out there, but why is the same thing keep on happening to us? So in a way, we are tripping out on our own trauma because we have this viewpoint that this is how life is, and because of this viewpoint, we are actually recreating the exact same situation in life. So in a way, we are tripping more on life when we're not on anything. And again, seems like a little bit far away, but try to stay with me in that thought process
mm.
that you might be in a loop yourself in your day-to-day life, and to experience that moment of letting go and actually being taken care of, knowing that life provides for you, that your needs are being met, can be such an incredible and powerful and healing experience in of itself. So I understand, especially as men, we don't want to lose control. We don't want to be the one screaming in ceremony, and most likely you won't be that person. But whatever comes, and to work through that, um, and to lose that control and still feel that you are okay, is one of the absolutely incredible lessons as well.
Yeah, I agree. I like to liken it to a hospital. When we come into ceremony, it's not a ceremony full of healthy people. It's a ceremony full of sick people. And when you go into a hospital, you don't apologize to the doctor for being sick or for crying or complaining or throwing up, or you don't apologize for any of that. And I think that if more people viewed it as they're going to a hospital because they need to heal, that would eliminate a lot of the concern that you're
Mm,
talking about.
mm. And that ties to the other point that, in a way, when people come here, I call them participants, but in reality, people that come to the retreats are patients. And obviously, we don't like to think of ourselves as a patient, like I'm fine. But in a way, we suffer from the human condition of life, for anxiety, depression, of not opening our heart, of being too much in our head, and to know it's okay to be a patient, to receive that healing. And what you said about you don't apologize in the hospital either if you needed that help. It's okay. I mean, the people who do this work, they don't do it for the money. They do it because it's a level of calling for them, and because it's a service. It's a service
Exactly.
to humanity. It's a service to each person that comes here and gives us their trust, their courage to go on that intimate process here, and to have that level of commitment, dedication to each, in this case, participant patient that comes here.
Yeah, man, I absolutely resonate with that. Yeah, anything to add? I've got another question I want to ping you about.
Yeah, go for it. Go for it.
Yeah, so I know like a lot of the veteran community tends to be pretty conservative. A lot of them are anti-drug, and many of them are Christian. So on the Christian perspective, would you say that there's a conflict between the spirituality or rituals or ceremonies in ayahuasca and being a Christian?
Great question. And it's there's not a conflict. And it's interesting that even the indigenous, there's a lot of Christian elements in the Colombian ceremonies because of the conquistadores and the Christianization that has been happening here over the last centuries. And even more that some people come and they say like, oh, I I even dislike that there are Christian elements in the ceremonies because it feels like that they abandoned their own culture, their own traditions. And one part of the story is that the indigenous, they saw the similarities of what the conquistadores were talking about. And when they talked about Virgin Mary, they said, oh, you know Virgin Mary, we call her Pachamama, the energy of
Mm.
the earth, who nurtures us, who provides for us. When they talked about Christ, they say like, oh, it's we connect with the energy of Christ through the tobacco, through the light, through the liberation. So it's I tell people to connect with their own spirituality, with their own belief.
Mhm.
If they want to pray in ceremony, they're more than welcome to pray. If they, yeah, so there's no conflict in that. And I, for me, my parents didn't give me religion. They told me that whenever I'm ready to choose a religion, I should pick my religion. And I would say I was agnostic. I was like, hey, maybe there's the universe out there, maybe there's energy out there, but I didn't have a lived experience with divinity. And I was less than fortunate to experience that divinity through the ayahuasca, which is always in us. It was also a process for me to, it's one thing to feel it in the ceremony, it's another thing to bring it into your day to day life, to be thankful, to connect with that beauty of divinity. And as if you really trust God, life is good. And I like to
Yeah.
say, nothing makes sense until it does make sense. If I look at myself when I was 26 or 27, I was frustrated that I didn't have the level of financial success that I was looking for. Now looking back at it at 31, I'm so happy I didn't, because if I would have had that level of financial success at 27, I would have never gone down this path that led to so much healing and growth within me, but to so many other people as well. So there's other things that are not flowing as well in my life as I would like them to, but I really have that trust, that conviction that there's a reason for it, and that when I'm mature enough in my heart, when the timing of God is perfect, and that it's in some ways God always provides for us, and it's us, and we have to open our heart to feel worthy of all of the gifts that God has in store for us. You can call it God, you can call it the Great Spirit, whatever you connect with, but there is no conflict between Christianity and drinking ayahuasca.
Yeah, man, I absolutely agree. I appreciate that explanation. Who shouldn't take plant medicines? Like, are there people that shouldn't consider going down this path?
Yes. So it's for us at our center, we are pretty conservative around that regard. So if you have a psychiatric condition, if you have bipolar disorder, if you have schizophrenia, if you have borderline personality disorder, if you have, so then it's recommended to not drink ayahuasca, because you experience life with very strong ups and very strong downs. And ayahuasca can even increase those ups and downs, and that can put you in some dark places, which are really difficult to get out of. And obviously, if you are in that dark place, you're just like, oh, I actually don't even care. There's nothing that's working, and I determined to do it. In that case, I would really recommend you to be honest with the medicine givers. There are centers who also share ayahuasca with people who have a psychiatric condition but a lower dose, and to know that it is a very strong medicine. It can move a lot of energy in you, and to also be in that have that medical things which are cleared so you can drink ayahuasca. Also, obviously, if you take antidepressants, ADHD medications, things that affect your brain chemistry, it's important to be off them for a period of time. It varies depending on your age, how long you've been taking them, the quantity that you're taking. If you have epilepsy, if you have a heart condition, all of those things, it's important to be very careful. Also, ayahuasca is a medicine which is very strong on the body as well. So if you have a heart condition, maybe mushrooms are more something for you.
Mm-hmm.
So it is a delicate thing, and I understand you want to experience ayahuasca, but also to know that it's something powerful and that there are contraindications, and that your health is the most important. And sometimes that goes with saying no to certain people with certain conditions.
Yeah, absolutely agreed. Yeah, so bottom line, when in doubt, check with the ceremony center or the medicine person that you're taking from, and be honest with what you're dealing with and what you're taking, especially. Don't risk it.
And I want
Yeah.
to add one more thing. It's very important that you feel safe wherever you drink ayahuasca. If you think that they're going to steal your organs, or that they're going to drug you, or this or that or whatever, don't drink ayahuasca, because going into ayahuasca with that thought in the back of your mind, that can amplify itself as well. So make sure you feel safe with the people that you drink with, and don't have that level of paranoia going into the ceremony.
Yeah, I love that. Well, I think that's a good segue. I'd love to hear about the work that you're doing and your center.
Absolutely. So we have two types of retreats that we do. One is a 3.5-day retreat, and the other is a 7-day retreat. And so we pick people up on the afternoon. We get them here, and the first day is just to rest, to decompress, get to know the group. We share the agreements of respect and non-judgment, authenticity, and confidentiality.
Seems
And
familiar.
yeah, seems familiar. Yeah, thanks to Carl. But it's very important, that you can have that those intimate experiences. And I also like to say it's not about who has traveled to the most countries, who has the biggest business, but we're all humans trying to become better humans. But the first day is basically to just arrive. The next day we do a holotropic breathwork session. In the holotropic breathwork, you overbreathe. That way you have more oxygen in your body. That changes your brain chemistry. Your monkey brain is going to shut up. Deeper parts of your brain where deep memories, emotions are stored, are going to activate. So it's already like a journey from your head to your body to your heart. You do an ice bath. In the ice bath, you don't think about the problems of yesterday, the worries of tomorrow. You are in the present moment. You push past your comfort zone. You connect with that body intelligence. So we do a lot of things before as well to make you feel comfortable, safe in the group, with the space, with the facilitators. So it's not like you come, you drink ayahuasca right away, but it's like you ease into the process. Then we have the first ceremony the second night. The next day we have a sharing circle. I do an ayahuasca integration seminar where I share about what to do after your retreat, what not to do, what to expect. Also then some rest, and then the second ceremony. And like you mentioned, it's good to have various ceremonies, because if you have one ceremony and you think I need to resolve all of my problems in the next 7 hours, that's going to put a lot of pressure on it. With ayahuasca, it's also you start to become more sensitive to it. It's not you build a tolerance, but you go deeper into your process. You're already more in an open state. So the third night, we have the second ceremony. After that, we have a sharing circle, and that's like the 3.5 day. So basically, for people who want to take their first steps with ayahuasca, also for people who have work commitment, life commitments that doesn't allow them to come for 1 week. But then we also have the 1 week retreats with 2 more ayahuasca ceremony, a purging day to help clean your body, a yoga session, a hike to a waterfall, a massage, a lot more conversations to develop, whatever wants to develop in you. I'm a huge fan of the 7-day retreats, and after the retreat is over, we also have an online community. We have an ayahuasca integration workbook, and we have weekly calls as well. That online community is $19 a month, and I think it's important because obviously the work starts, like so much of the work continues, starts, whatever you want to call it, after your retreat, and to be can change a lot of energy in you. It can feel like, a lot of people are not on the same journey, and you want to, connect with the community, exactly what you're building as well. And by having those weekly calls, either online integration or the breathwork sessions, those help to, keep on with the process, that you're not going crazy, you're not by yourself, and that there's a lot of others who are on this path with you.
Oh man, I love that. I really appreciate that. What else? Anything else that's coming to mind that you want to delve into or talk about or open up?
I'm building a YouTube channel where I talk a lot about ayahuasca because there's so many questions out there about it. And I think it's also good to not build up ayahuasca too much in your head. Like, this is the experience, because once you have it, you're just like, damn it, I wish I would have done it 3 years ago. It's like, it helped me so much. And if you feel the call, experience it yourself. And I'm really amazed by also that people in a way come with the worries of their soul, with the fears, frustration that they carry, and what's possible in 3.5 days, or even what's possible more in 7 days. And what I like to say also, that it's possible for you too, because you hear all of those stories and it's like, yeah, but they didn't have my background, or for me it's different, or whatever. But I believe the creator, the divine spirit, wants to see each one of us do well in our life, and that all of these transformations are also possible for you.
I love it, man. Well, I definitely appreciate it. Thank you for taking the time to talk, to really discuss these things in detail. What I'm personally doing is I'm going to be creating a couple of courses, like why plant medicines, that'll go into some of the stuff we talked about, preparation and integration for plant medicines. And as we grow in this community, I'd love for people to have a way to reach you. So after the call, if you would send me your YouTube channel, website, way to contact you, I'll make sure that I put those in the show notes. And for the podcast, so that people can reach out to you if they feel like there's a calling to work with you.
Thank you very much, Scottie. And I also want to really acknowledge your level of commitment to this work, for serving the community, for you doing your own level of healing, and by that blazing the trail, right? Because it's not book knowledge. It's not like something that you've read and now you're preaching or whatever. It's things that we all have our perfect imperfections, and you are working through them on a consistent basis. You are growing yourself as a human. You're healing. You're dedicating yourself to your craft, to this path. And thank you, and for creating all of these resources and that people can plug into. And thank you for what you do, and looking forward to seeing you soon in person.
Likewise, man, that'd be great. I'm gonna kick Fireflies out and stop the recording so we can catch up if we need to and discuss. Let me give you a minute. Call. Okay, remove and stopping recording.